Walk with me for just a moment down the baking aisle at the grocery store. As we're walking and taking a few steps down the aisle, we smell a familiar sweet smell. And that smell is sugar. Now, we're going to take 33 of those 4-pound bags of sugar that are sitting on the shelf and line them up. Now, imagine with me for just a second that you grab one of those bags and you rip it open and you dig into it. This is what we do with sugar as Americans. We dig into it. If you're the average American, you will be consuming all 33 of those 4-pound bags of sugar in a year. It's a rare person who doesn't like sugar. When was the last time that you went to a fast food restaurant and had a cup of soda and then refilled it once or twice or maybe 3 times? Or maybe you don't like soda. Maybe you sat down to a glass of orange juice. We all consume sugar in this way from time to time. Now, I love sugar. I like it a lot, but it also worries me. My dad, he developed type 2 diabetes, and overconsumption of sugar is one of the large contributing factors to this major disease of type 2 diabetes. It concerns me that one day in the future I will be suffering from the same disease. Overconsuming sugar has become a problem that's really putting a lot of people at risk of major diseases like cardiovascular disease, as well as type 2 diabetes and other kinds of diseases. Overconsumption of sugar, it presents a problem, and it really has revealed itself over a better understanding of the correlation between overconsumption of sugar and major diseases like this one. Another thing that it has done is that we've seen studies reveal that it's really not a localized problem, it's a widespread issue. But there really is a solution that can reduce your risk for these types of diseases that are correlated with overconsumption of sugar. Simple changes to your behavior. Simple changes just by changing how much you eat. When we're talking about sugar overconsumption, it's really important to know that it's not naturally occurring sugar that we're talking about. What it is what's called added sugar. The American Heart Association defines added sugar as any sugars or caloric sweeteners that are added to foods or beverages during the preparation or processing of foods. Now, it's this added sugar that has become the problem. The first thing that we need to talk about with this problem is that overconsuming sugar really has been tied to and linked with several major diseases. Since the time that sugar became more accessible in the American diet, there's been a steady increase in the correlation between sugar overconsumption and these major diseases. Now, logic would suggest that if we continue to overconsume sugar the way that we have, then the occurrence of these major diseases will also continue. One of the major diseases that is correlated with overconsumption of sugar is cardiovascular disease. The American Heart Association cited a study by JAMA Internal Medicine that those who overconsume sugar are 38% more likely to die of cardiovascular disease as compared to those who eat sugar according to the recommended limits. There's another major disease that is tied to overconsuming sugar, and that's type 2 diabetes. The American Diabetes Association states that type 2 diabetes, it really has several contributing factors. But one of those factors that they identify specifically is the drinking of sugary drinks. Now, with the level of risk that's associated with these major diseases, it would seem that people would respond by reducing their consumption of sugar. This, however, calls attention to our next point, which is the second part of our problem, that overconsuming sugar is not just a localized issue. It really is a widespread problem that we have in America. The average American loves sugar and consumes too much of it. And in this regard, you may be considered an average American. Therefore, you probably love sugar and consume too much of it. There are respected health organizations that offer reasonable suggestions for consuming sugar. The suggestion for women is 6 teaspoons of sugar a day. and for men it's 9. Now this cup that I'm holding up right here has 9 teaspoons of sugar in it, the amount that men are suggested to consume in a day. The Sugar Association, which is a major backer of the sugar industry, disagrees with these recommendations. They say that they have no basis in scientific fact. However, when you look at the studies that they've done, the average American actually consumes sugar, overconsumes sugar, by nearly 500%. On average, people consume 131.2 pounds of sugar a year. And what that amounts to on a daily basis is this cup. This cup has 43 teaspoons of sugar in it. And that is what we're consuming on an average basis. Now, the consumption of sugar and the risk that comes with it is really too high to be ignored. On a personal level, there is something that you can do to make a change in your own life. There really are simple behavioral changes that you can make to the way that you consume sugar in order to put yourself at less risk of these major diseases that are associated with overconsumption. Dr. Robert Lustig, who is a pediatric endocrinologist, he offers some simple suggestions to reduce sugar in your diet. The first one is to cut sugar out of the obvious places. Cut some of the sugar that you consume. What he says, and this is a quote, is nix soda. We really should be reducing the amount of soda and other sugary drinks that we're consuming. This suggested amount for men is 9 teaspoons, and it's actually just about the same amount of sugar that is contained in the average can of soda. And we're not just usually drinking 1 can of soda a day. And another part of this is to replace the snack foods and candies and things like that with something else that's sweet, but is good for us, and that's fruit. These have naturally occurring sugars that are actually good for us. The other part of his suggestion is to cut some of the sugar out of the hidden places. Bread, tomato sauce, and salad dressing and things like that really have a lot more sugar than you would think that they'd have. Another part of this too is to educate yourself by becoming a label reader. There are over 55 names that are used on nutritional labels for sugar. And so we really need to be studying up on these and finding out what's in our food. Overconsumption of sugar is a big problem that has a simple solution. The overconsumption of sugar has really, again, put many people at a high risk for these major diseases. The problem presents itself because overconsuming sugar is linked to these major diseases, and it also presents itself in the fact that it's not just a small problem, but it really is a widespread issue. However, changing your behavior by making wise choices about what you eat really can help you decrease your risk for these diseases. If you'd like to increase your chances of living a longer life, and also living a life that is not diminished by suffering through these diseases, reducing how much sugar that you can eat, or that you eat, is really a great way and a first stepping stone to accomplish this.